guys, thanks for watching. We're gonna get right into it in this one. We got a big Bur Oak that's uprooted over here next to this green. We're gonna get that plucked up and limbed up and all the way. So this video is just gonna be my process for doing that, and I wanted to show a little bit, cutting in real time first, so you kind of see what I'm doing. But it's a pretty big tree, so it takes some time. So I'll probably speed that up, and you can see my process for working through this. See if this root ball makes a big plop or not. I only grabbed my 500i, which has a 25-inch bar, and here I'm just going to grab the 661. I usually run a 36-inch bar on that and use that mostly for falling some larger trees. Sometimes I'll put the smaller bar on it and use that, or I keep it as a backup saw to my 500i. I like the 500i the most. It's just nice power to weight ratio. I should say I use it the most, but the 661 is probably my favorite saw, so it's always a good day when I get to pull that out. Well, I'm just letting the saw warm up here. I'll just talk a little bit what I'm looking at here. I'm cutting the root ball off first because as you cut the top of the tree, if you leave that connected, the whole tree can stand up, which can be dangerous. So I was trying to make sure that didn't happen, so we're gonna cut off on the bottom here first. Norse pinched on me right at the end.
Starting to pinch on me.
Usually I start near the trunk and work my way up, taking limbs off, then work my way back. Given this situation though, it made sense to just start at the tip and work my way back. A lot of times I work by myself, so this is the most efficient way I found to work through this and keep me from doing extra work picking and sorting through things. So this first bit here I'll just show in real time so you can see what I'm doing and see how I break down the tree. It does depend a little bit on how up in the air some of the branches are. You can see some of these go pretty high up. It was a pretty widespread tree, so sometimes you gotta cut pieces down and drop it so you can get at it, but I don't like getting on top and dropping everything on top of each other because it just makes a big tangled mess and I have to sort through it and you're fighting at pieces and it creates tension on more stuff. So I like to leave the tree kind of on its kickstands down there, the branches that have all the tension to hold everything up and keep things off the ground too, so it's less work on the ground and minimizes chances of hitting the dirt. That's just the process I like to use and it works for me. So if it's something that you want to try and see if it works for you, hopefully my method might work for you. Right here you'll see I start getting into some of the loaded branches, start back cutting, and you can see the forest coming down. I usually cut them some, and then that helps lower the rest of the tree. But I like to leave some on the ground so that it holds everything up and you get everything, the rest of the tree that you're cutting at a good height, instead of dropping everything on the ground and cutting on the ground. It's just harder on you and harder on the saw. Hit the dirt and rocks or whatever you got below. Here it's just pretty easy grass, and I mean, if you're in the woods with debris where that keeps it up off the ground, it's not so bad. But especially on flat surface like this, I find that's the best way for me. You might also notice that I cut stuff up a little smaller, and maybe some most. I don't really use a wood chipper much, forestry mulcher, but they're going to be taking care of this and chipping it. But most of the time I try to cut up, down to 2 or 3 inches or so, mainly to maximize firewood and usable material out of the trees. I don't I don't have a good method for utilizing the tops for mulch or what have you. I think in the future I'd like to be able to do that, but right now I just don't. But big part of why I do things the way I do is just doing things sustainably and creating value for clients. These trees have a lot of material in them, and it's worth something to them and to me. So I try to maximize what I get out of that for them. And some trees are more or less common than others, more or less common. So it's just a balance of how much cutting versus what you get out of it. So white oak is a little bit more valuable, and I usually cut it down to a little bit smaller size than say like ash, where currently in our area there's just a massive abundance of that, and emerald ash borer has wiped out so much. So a lot of times I don't cut it as small because it's just not worth the time, with how much actually needs to be cut. So it's always just a balance. Highway's up behind me there. Sounds like a mini racetrack when sped up, so I'm not gonna make you guys listen to that. Tell how heavy this log is. As it lifted, the skid steer is kind of tipping. I'd say it's probably about 7,000 pounds. This machine tips at about 8. Later you'll see when I move it, it's pretty near the limit of the machine. As you guys can see, this log is even heavier than the last one from the last video. Even so, pretty minimal marks on the ground with this. It's always really impressive, this machine. Main thing is just gotta be careful not turning, obviously, but it never really ruts things up, and even on a golf course where it's even more critical. So working in people's yards and stuff, it's really the best you can get for that. Here, loading this a little higher up than I'd probably want to normally with the weight, but my trailer is 16-foot bed, and this is cut at 16.5 feet, so it's not quite gonna fit. So I had to set it a little bit on the front of the dump trailer, and that's totally fine. So just strapped it down and everything was good. One thing I also wanted to mention on this video is this was across 2 days, and the first part of the video was the first day I was here. Just got too hot working down in the sun in this spot that particular day, so I moved up to that hickory I showed in the first video, and that was in the shade, so I had shifted to that, and then came back to this the next day when it was in the shade here from these trees that are up behind me. It's just a lot easier doing that, and was in the shade more of the day. It's pretty hot during these days here, so I always have a hard time with the heat, so as much as I can do to keep cool and is always a plus. This next section here I show a maple that I cut as well. There was just too many other people around, too much going on, that I didn't have a chance to record anything. And I still wanted to show that just because it was an interesting way that the tree kind of split down, and it was included bark and there was still a little bit connected in the middle, so I wanted to show what I did with that as much as possible. This one was split. I didn't get a chance to record it. You can see it was splitting almost all the way down. Cut it off a bit, should heal. It's all included bark, just disconnected that little bit in the middle there. This side was split all the way down too. They just wanted it bucked up and on the ground, bigger stuff, so that's all we're doing. I just bore cut it. See, put a notch in. Did more of an open face one on this. Bored in inside the crack. Cut off the little bit that was attached in the middle pretty smoothly. Hey guys, we're back here on the homestead. I got the big oak log from the golf course hauled up here. It was pouring rain when I dropped it off, so I didn't get to show dumping it off, but we got all the over here. This is all from the one tree. Got this here and these couple logs I gotta buck up. Just moved them off to the side so I can buck them up. This is a bunch of black locust, actually from here. Something I cut here, but there's probably a good about 2 cord after I cut this, I'd say. Maybe a little less. The log is over here. Fortunately, it's got a little bit of a crack, but I think I'm pretty sure it's just in the root flare, but we'll find out. We're gonna get this thing sawed up. I cut it at about 16 foot 6, 16 foot 8. Try not to get it right on the root flare here, but this was probably, it's a good 3 foot on the stump. My 661 had a 36-inch bar. You saw me cutting it. Sorry for the shoddy camera work here. I'd say, you know, between 30 to 36, depending on where and which direction. We're probably inside the bark, probably about 24-inch DBH. So pretty good log. Let's see, double check the length here. Oh, of course. Try and do this one-handed. Let's try it again. Yep, 16 foot 6. I also cut them like this, past the crotch. I mostly cut slabs. You know that your sawmill is going to want it cut way back up there, so you don't have the double hearts. They want perfect logs, but I don't. That's not what I'm cutting here. So, unfortunately, this has got the split out on the bottom from the storm damage, but there's not much we can do about that. We'll see what we can use this for. I have some ideas. Just depends on how it turns out and what it looks like inside. So stay tuned for some work with this guy. Might have some interesting stuff going on in there. This one here is a silver maple next to it. The far right one is the top, one of the branches from this log here, this white oak. Actually, it's a Bur Oak. This is a white oak here that had this massive scar. This is the first log, and then there was 2 more after it. I think this is 12'8" log. And then I think I cut one more 12'8". You can see it's totally hollowing out too. This one I'm not totally sure what I'm going to do with. I might try quarter sawing. The cracking here looks a lot worse than it is because of there's like a thin piece that was cut. This tree was about 40 inches on the stump, I believe. Yeah, about. So we'll see what I do with that. If it turns out to be anything, if it just ends up being firewood, it just ends up being firewood. But looking at the top, it doesn't look too bad. Starting to get some cracking going on, but I don't have a lot of time to mill stuff, so hopefully we can get more time to do that. These are a few of the bigger logs I have here at the homestead. I have a lot more that I would like to get to. Got some nice cedar over here that we'll be using for projects at some point. So I wanted to show you this cool branch. Had a nice little hollow in there. Might use it for a natural birdhouse or something in the yard. We'll see. Just wanted to show you guys that, and we'll see what we end up doing with it. Appreciate you watching, and stay tuned for more.